Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are on the live server with Update Dance of Dragons, and in this video it's time to have a look at a bunch of changes that weren't on the dev server but have made it to live. One thing to mention is there's a lot of stuff that hasn't made it in from the roadmap. What I'm going to do tomorrow is we'll have a look at that stuff and talk about what is missing and what is not here. But one of the things that isn't here, which kind of sucks, is the nation bonuses haven't turned up. But there are a lot of changes which have made it, which is really cool. So we're going to go through them in this video. The first one to have a look at is for Germany, and it's the PUMA. The VJTF. They've made it a lot easier to research. You can see now that it's actually folded with the standard PUMA, so you don't have to worry about getting it a rank 8, and also it's basically halved its RP cost. This makes it a lot easier to get, and also you don't have to research that spike missile, which is fantastic for the vehicle. I don't know how annoying it would be if you didn't get that stock, but at least you do. So the PUMA's a little bit easier to get. Talking about ease of research once again, they have made a positive change to how this type of setup works. So you can see here that there is a system in the game where if you don't want to research the new vehicle, but you do want to research the one after it, there is a grace period in order for you to do that. And this grace period used to be 14 days. They've actually increased it now to 28 days. So you basically get a full month before you have to research that newer vehicle in order to get access to the older one, which is fantastic. That makes it a lot easier to deal with and also a lot better. The other little change that came in for ground vehicles is on the Vextra. They've actually changed the HE round. It used to be the F3, now it's the 60. So this will change its general ballistics and make it a little bit different to use. HE rounds are getting changed across the board. There's a lot of muzzle velocities that are being moved around. One of them, which is also getting moved quite aggressively, is the good old Comet, which you'll find here. All of the Comets in the game, they have lost about 250 meters per second on their muzzle velocity for their HE. So if you do like donking people, if you do like trying to overpressure or going after open top targets, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to do now. But not impossible. You can still do it. There's only one vehicle that has made it to the game that wasn't on the dev server, and that is, of course, the Amagi. The Amagi was in the files, and also it did get a dev blog, but it has finally graced us in the game. One of the things to note is they've actually put it after the ISA, or the ICE, which is surprising. They could have just put it here, but instead now you have to get through these two in order to get the Amagi. As you can see, it is another 7-0 for Japan. It is pretty nuts how stacked that they are nowadays. But yeah, they have definitely added another big banger. Loading screen-wise, there's a few new ones too, which is always lovely to look at. Surprisingly, the CTWV-RCV got a loading screen along with the new PUMA that you can see in the back here. This is the new squadron vehicle that has come in for Japan, and I feel like it would have made a bit more sense to have the PUMA as the main thing, but it's still cool to see. Talking about another loading screen that's a surprise, there's no sign of the J10, which of course was the poster boy for the update, but instead we have the Ismail, which is a battle cruiser, which was never finished for the Soviets. So this is obviously another vehicle that's come in. Very surprising to see this. Usually there is a little bit of more, I suppose, popular vehicles in the loading screens, but this time definitely a bit different. Another part to talk about when it comes to the options and when it comes to just general settings, they have added in these sight settings. Now, one thing I will note about these, they are very buggy. So there have been issues when it comes to saving presets. There have been issues with them actually working. So just give it time, it'll get there. You can use the default grid sight, or you can use all of these other ones as a basis. You can change all of the different colors in all of the different modes, which is really cool. You can also add a rangefinder if you want to. Let's just make it a bit easier to see. You can add a rangefinder if you want to the target, which you can see here. And then also at the same time, you have a turret, which you can add to it as well. You can actually move any of these things around to any of the parts of the screen. You can also add a field of view if you want to, which just adds a box to the area, which you can change all of the different things to it in the different setups. You can see here with light or not light, it actually changes it. And then also gun ready, which is basically the reload of the vehicle too. So you can add the rangefinder, you can add where your turret is facing, and then you can also add the reload. So for example, the one that I made earlier is this simple one, which has the reload in the corner, it has the rangefinder, it has the turret position, and then also the standard crosshair, which changes based on if, you know, you have this thing. You can see I need to modify it a little bit. But overall, it works pretty good, at least making it. All you have to do is save the preset, and then you save it to the vehicle. The problem is right now, there isn't like an apply all button, so you have to apply it to like a specific rank to a specific tech tree, and hopefully they add an apply all button to it. But what I would say is give this a go. Have a bit of fun with it, see what it's about, because there are so many different options around with it. One of the cool things they've also said is they did take a lot of inspiration from stuff like this from people who made the user sites, and will continuously improve it in the future for, you know, obvious reasons. I would definitely say this is not fully finished, and they will just keep updating it, but it was one of those things they said that they'll put in. Seems like they're a little bit behind on a lot of the roadmap stuff, which is unfortunate. When we have a look at some other parts of the game, talking about things that are not fully finished, the MAS 441, or the fishing boat, they did add depth charges to it, but one of the problems with the depth charges is they're a little bit too close, doing a slight, what we would class as a special hug, being inside of each other. So probably need to work on that. Another part is the change to the item shop, which we already looked at, but they have slightly changed the colors. If you already have one of the vehicles sorted, or one of the vehicles got, then the box will be grayed out and you can't purchase it anymore. So therefore, people won't just buy boxes which they already have vehicles for. I think that's kind of cool. That means that people don't waste money. Very important in that state. French Camos also came in. So, for example, if you play the coastal vehicles for France, you don't just have to deal with the grey. You do actually have a bunch of different ones. You got the wonderful salmon pink, a quadricolor, a geometric, and then the GE one that you can't grind out is this one, which is a tricolor geometric too, which I overall think is quite nice. They have also updated heli DMs, but once again, it is nowhere near finished. There is only 2 sets of vehicles which have the updated heli DMs. First of all, you have the K52. You can see here that they've actually put in the general models of everything. All of the pink/purple stuff is the news. So you can see here NVD, MFD, the sensors, the RWR, and then also the weapon control and guidance. One of the things they talked about was the idea of actually filling this thing with a bunch of kind of electronics and stuff, so therefore it would set off the rounds and do more damage to the useful modules. We'll see if that actually happens or not, but I hold hope in my heart, but probably not in my brain, because I've just had too many poor experiences against these things. So the K52 got changed, and also the Apaches. And the Apaches, like this one right here, the standard H64A, you can once again see all of the additional controls and all the different things that they've put in. Every other helicopter hasn't been touched yet, but the idea is to eventually touch them all with these new systems. Another thing that has been brought in for helicopters is the H1Z got its new missiles, so it did get access to the better Hellfires. Another thing is they changed the customization window, but I've obviously showed that before. I think that's really cool that they added that in, but that's also turned up. And you can see here they've actually added a thing which I think is actually kind of obnoxious. So if you are able to get a discount on a vehicle in the game, even if it's a permanent discount, it's always going to show for you now. So, for example, because I have the P10, that means that whenever I want to buy the Greek Apache, which was the premium brought in to replace the P10, I will get a 30% discount on it, but there's no way for me to turn this off. So whenever I go to my area over here, I can't move any of these around, and they're just going to sit there forever, which is just annoying. But I get why they're doing it. It's to make sure that people understand where the discounts are. but it's not something that I'm too bothered about. Talking about some other vehicles that got some pretty fun changes, there's some reverse speed buffs for some American vehicles. The XM800T, which is already an incredible mobile vehicle, has a fantastic reverse on it now. Before, it used to have, like, I think it was like a 13 km/h reverse. Now it's 43. So if you enjoyed this thing before, you will love this thing now. You'll be able to just motor, not just forwards, but backwards at the same time. Big buffs to this vehicle. The M46 also got a reverse increase, not just for the standard M46, but also for the Tiger. They upped it by about 5 to 7 km/h. Makes a huge difference with a vehicle like this, which relies on its mobility to be very good. Nice to see the Chicken Wire Express finally getting a little bit of a buff, even though the chicken wire is pretty useless. The other change for American vehicles is, of course, the HSTV-L. So this one, on the dev server, did have its HEVT. Luckily, it's kept it on the live server. So it will have the secondary capabilities of the HEVT, which is really cool. The other part that it also has kept is it has its track IRST too. So you're able to track vehicles. Another thing you may be able to hear is the crew are a lot more clear on naval vehicles and also tanks as well. But here's the tracker. You can see it work here. And that means that you can annihilate planes even if you don't have the HEVT. So yeah, big buffs for the HSTV-L, meaning that it's now more of a multi-role vehicle and you'll be able to do anti-air, not just anti-ground. Yeah, listen to the crew voices a little bit here, just to show you they're a lot more clear. They got rid of a lot of the radio static. So this basically means it'll be much easier to hear your crew and their commands, and also a bunch of other stuff too with it. This is not just for ground though. In naval, they're really clear as well, so it will help you kind of understand what's going on. The Israelis got changed for the aviation. You know how on the dev server, the F-16D had access to the Derbies, and then the F-16C had access to the AIM-120s? Well, guess what? The F-16C also now gets the Derbies, so you can pick which active radar homing missile you want, which is kind of cool. It basically means that depending on your playstyle and depending on how you want to set it up, you can set it up in different ways. So that's really nice. Always lovely to see. The best tank destroyer in the game unfortunately got nerfed. The AMX-30S DCA, as it's called nowadays. I don't know where the S came from. But the engine got nerfed, so it's only 650 horsepower. Still a very powerful vehicle, still going to be able to wreck pretty much everything that is in the game with its APDS, but it lost 70 horsepower, which isn't very kind. One thing that did change, though, and we'll have to see how this goes, it is, of course, the Su-25. The Su-20 SM, by the way, did get its additional R-77, so they did keep that. It does have the under carriage R-77s that you can bring, so now this thing can bring more missiles than before. But the Su-25 SM3, this vehicle used to have the S-25L missiles. Now it has the LDs. Now these aren't really the missiles that you kind of go for compared to some of the other ones, but these ones are laser guided, launch range of 12 kilometers, and of course with access to the good old pod that this thing has, or at least the internal one, these are going to be pretty powerful. So we'll have to see how it goes. They're obviously not as fire and forgetty as some of the other things that this vehicle has, but yeah, it's definitely interesting to see that change. We'll see how ground players like that. Then for the F-104s, the C kept its 4 AIM-9Bs, but didn't change in BR. So this is now just way better than the A. So now instead of the A's, you're going to see a bunch of C's running around, because now it has the RWR and also has the 2 extra missiles. There is a change to the F-104s though. The sustained turn time has been increased but the mouse control of the vehicle has been improved, and the maximum overload limit in forced turns by the instructor has been increased to 7.5 Gs. So this basically means that the flight model has been changed, and it will be easier to kick to be able to get the gun on target, but at the same time, it will take longer to go over a larger turn. So for me, I think it will be fine. It will still be able to bully everything, and they will just never put it up in BR for some reason. So very sad to see that change. They've also changed bombs just in general. They've added a ton of munitions, by the way, to a ton of things. So good luck respading stuff. For example, the P63 got some M8s, but also, you know, a bunch of other vehicles got access to new bombs. They have also added in the estimated damage to bases and reward multiplier, which is quite nice. So you do get those now. You can see that on all bombs. The interesting thing about bombs, though, previously overestimated resistance to shrapnel hits has been reduced. So this means that it should be easier to shoot down bombs from the air if you're in like an SPAA, or if you're using like a 50 cal or something on a ground vehicle. So if you see a bomb coming in and you shoot it down, or you hit it with like a machine gun or a 50 cal or something, it should explode more often instead of it not. Because what was happening before is you could literally hit the bomb and you wouldn't be able to actually do anything in terms of damage to it, so it would just still hit you. Now, bombs should actually get exploded a bit more by small arms munitions from the higher area. One of the things they also showed in the update teaser and also trailer was the HMD for the Gripen. I haven't actually personally shown it here, so I thought I would just kind of show it how it is. This is the standard digital HUD. You can see here, this is the specific HMD for the Gripen. Now, they've added a bunch more HMDs for other stuff too. For example, a bunch of helicopters this time. But if they are going to do unique stuff like this for specific vehicles, I mean, that's really cool, right? So this gives you something which is specific for the Gripen. This is here for all of the different Gripens, by the way. It isn't just here for one or two. It's here for all of them. So I think that's really awesome. Gives you a unique look and kind of perspective on it. And it means that, at least in general, you can have a bit of fun with it, right? So the hood itself is absolutely beautiful on the good old Gripen as well. So really nice to see that they've added all that stuff. It's amazing how much of a leap a lot of those things have come over the period of time. A few other controls to look at and also to kind of turn on. So in the options menu for air battles, one of the things that you should change is indicated altitude. So they have added it in. They've added radar altitude into the game along with barometric altitude. Basically, this means that it even shows you barometric altitude is the height above sea level, where radar altitude is the height from the aircraft to the surface below it. So when you're thinking about like multipathing, or when you actually want to know your kind of real altitude in the game, you need to use radar altitude, but you can put both of them on. So I would honestly say that's the way to go. Another part of it for controls right now, in I think it's miscellaneous, they have got the good old tank switch fuse mode. This thing doesn't do anything right now. It's part of the roadmap. We'll hear about it soon, I'm sure, and hopefully that gets fixed too at some point. But right now, nothing has really changed with it, and it's just kind of sad there. Don't worry about it is basically what I'm saying. You might see it. Overall, it's fine. They changed the naval indicator a little bit in arcade, but nothing too crazy. I can't even really see the changes yet. And then also they changed the name of the TK-106, which is one of the funny boats that was an anniversary vehicle back in the day. This is now the TKA-412, so just giving it a more standard name, kind of like the Puma, now that it's changed too. So that is all kind of the extra stuff, a bunch of things that have turned up on update day. I'm going to be streaming and playing a bunch of it, such as the T1E1 and friends. As always, though, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.